This week on CrunchWeek, earnings. ADP drops its lawsuit with Zenefits, and Facebook wants to be your phone.
Earnings season. It's the most magical time of the year.
All right, real talk. Christmas or earnings season? Which one do you prefer?
Christmas. What?
Well, really? Why?
Then we get stuff.
Kind of.
What do you have against earnings?
Yeah.
Earnings is about the companies maybe getting stuff or getting screwed. We get stuff at Christmas. What?
We get tech meme headlines during earnings season. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You love earnings. I am terrified of earnings, and somehow I always get roped into earnings.
That's my fault, but you see, no, actually, to the audience, she volunteered for this. It's not entirely me just
because I wanted to learn, and then every time I'm like, why did I do this? And I'm going to blame you.
Okay, I'll just take the blame. It's fine. My fault.
So what do we have? We had Apple was a big one this week.
Yes.
So let's look at the score sheet. 51.5 billion in revenue. That's a lot of billions. 48.05 million iPhones sold. That's also a lot of millions. $1.96 in earnings. That's
pretty good.
A lot of dollars, and something like $200 billion.
$205 billion in cash total. Were those numbers better than expected, or were they kind of in line?
So the stock was actually flat, right? So and the question there is what does the future of Apple look like, right? And with the beats that they had, investors just clearly weren't impressed, and I don't know, why do you think that is?
Well, if you look at their full fiscal 2015 chart, they generated more revenue from Mac than iPad, and that's not been the case for the last couple of years. So
yeah, and iPads have generally been weak.
Yeah, but I think we're seeing a shift in their overall revenue mix, and I think they're so dependent on the iPhone.
But notebooks overall are down. So, I mean, what does that mean are you saying what that means for Apple? Or, I mean, I don't think that's
I always
fair
think Apple should
comparison.
beat the market. I think they should do better than other companies, because they generally do. So when they underperform a segment or just match the market, I'm disappointed, because I presume they're going to have a higher level of performance.
Yeah, and investors are also disappointed in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Apple has the two best problems in the world. They have too much cash they can't deploy, and they're so big it's hard to grow. But they have so much cash because they're so big. So it's like, but where do you move forward?
So they're doing really, really well, and how do you beat that low performance? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. I mean, it's the rule of high expectations and the law of large numbers at once.
Well, the other big question was China, right? And of course, their growth in China was absolutely massive. Do you think it was in line with what investors were hoping for? Because there's been sort of fears of a slowdown in China.
I think the fears of slowdown in China are real, material, and now. I mean, I think that the Chinese market being the growth shot for Apple moving forward is tampered by just the massive macro headwinds there. And Apple is also.
And yet Tim Cook is really bullish on China.
Yeah,
still.
He said basically something along the lines of it's going to be probably the largest market for Apple or something like that.
Yeah, in like 2020 or something like that, right? Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, there's just so much money and so many just bodies there to sell into. But if China has a 2 or 3 year decline in growth, that could really hamper Apple's ability to grow its own top line and therefore devalue its earnings moving forward.
Yeah,
but long term, I think we all agree that the picture is.
Yeah, and of course, there's a huge amount of competition coming up from their own companies like Xiaomi and even Huawei now.
Certainly.
Going after them.
Is that how you say it? Huawei?
I think it's Huawei.
I've heard like every single possible, like Huawei. We apologize for not being able to pronounce it, everyone. We'll look at that later.
Like that.
Let's talk about a really, really disappointing one, Twitter. What the hell happened there?
Well, Twitter grew by 4 million monthly actives compared to the sequentially preceding quarter.
That is not a lot of millions.
No, from 316 to 320. And investors are terrified that Twitter will either stop growing and begin to shrink or just not grow quickly, and that deprecates future cash flows and all of that. Twitter had a great revenue quarter. Adam Bain's great at making money.
569.2 million. That's still a fair amount of millions.
Yes, but the real other problem they had was their guidance was weak. So they guided their forward revenue for the next quarter was under market expectations. So even though they beat this quarter, that combined with the slow user growth and the lack of
So for people who don't understand guidance, like you've explained to me about a million times, can you explain maybe like what that means and what they were being told to do?
Yeah, so you set expectations. I say to you, next quarter I'm going to have $100 million in revenue and we're going to make about $10 million in profit. That way you can kind of just forecast and guess, and then if I miss those numbers, it's really bad. But if I beat them, then I look even better. So it's a little bit of a delicate dance. You don't want to over-guide, but you also don't want to leave people in the dark. But Twitter just didn't guide us where the market thought they were going to. And so
this is also the first quarter of that, like Jack Dorsey was sort of at the helm, right? Like I think it was the first full quarter that he was at the helm. And do you think
there's a lot of hope
There's a lot of hope for him and a lot riding on this. I don't know. Do you think the honeymoon period is over for him just yet?
I don't think so. I think people are kind of still waiting. It's a little early, don't you think?
I never thought I'd quote Sarah Palin on the show, but how's that hopey changey stuff working out for you? I'm optimistic about Jax. I think he is a person who hires very good people and puts a great team around himself to help run things. But I just don't see a core change in Twitter's product that'll drive new user growth in the short term, which it bums me out because I live on Twitter. Like, it is my life.
No, but they're going more mainstream and kind of, isn't there this like kind of almost dumbing it down and bringing in?
Well, there are a couple things that are trying to make it shift to mainstream. There's Twitter Moments that came out that's sort of able to focus on the big things that are happening on Twitter.
Do either of you use Twitter Moments?
I do.
You do?
I followed the baseball on it.
Okay.
Well, I do when I'm drunk and I hit the wrong button on the bottom of my screen.
It bothers
blue
me.
dot. Oh,
it
man.
bothers me. I know. I'm like, I don't even want to go there, but it's there. It's like a weird tick.
You can't avoid it. It is now part of our life, and it will be for the next 10 years. So.
All right, we're sorry for boring you with earnings for a little while. But there was another big thing that happened this week. ADP dropped its lawsuit against Zenefits. So what was the original crux of this lawsuit?
So this was a months-long legal battle in which started this summer, where ADP basically cut off data to Zenefits, saying they were very concerned about safety and security of its users.
And this was like a non-trivial decision for both companies, right?
Right.
Zenefits, this was a big deal for Zenefits.
As well as a big deal for Zenefits. I don't think it was that much of a deal for
So
ADP.
What is ADP for people who don't know?
ADP processes paychecks for people.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a giant corporation, processes, a good portion, I don't know the exact percent, but a very good portion of the paychecks for a good number of companies.
Yeah.
Cut off the data to Zenefits using its product. Suspicions were they were going to be building out a similar insurance product to Zenefits. Well, Zenefits had a letter actually showing that from a salesperson that they actually were working on that.
Yeah, and if you're ADP and you're not doing that, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
But so the lawsuit was dropped then, right?
Yeah, so what happened?
So then the CEO, Parker Conrad, went and put up a blog post and accused ADP of shady practices and fear-mongering and all sorts of stuff. So ADP sued him for defamation. They sued Zenefits for defamation, and they personally sued Parker Conrad.
Jeez.
Right. Well, you can't really there's a California law that says you can't really trump up lawsuits to squash the little guy. Even though, arguably, I don't know that you'd call Zenefits a little guy anymore.
No.
But they were able to use this California law. Lawsuit's been dropped, and they're not able to refile. So it's over.
Is the beef squashed entirely on the product side or just on the lawsuit side?
Well, Zenefits is apparently working on a payments product, right? So
Yes. Everyone's working on everything.
Yeah.
And what did Zen Payroll rename themselves now?
Oh, gosh. It was like, what was it? It was with the G.
I'm totally
It was
blanking.
something weird.
Giphy.
It was a weird name.
Giphy, Glow, Gamble?
Whatever.
Yeah, it was a name that didn't really seem
Make
to
a lot of
say
sense.
anything.
I'm just curious about how Zenefits manages to maintain its growth percentage when everyone's moving into their space that has more capital than they do. Like, if ADP does build out this product that competes with Zenefits, what does Zenefits have that ADP can't bring to the table? Because ADP has more customers, more flow, and more dollars.
Buzz? I don't know.
Buzz. But Buzz wears off. Buzz is just like 2 shots of tequila, just over time.
All right. The other inbox in Facebook Messenger is dead.
Yes.
Who's excited about that?
I didn't really go there. I kind of liked it. It was like your spam folder.
Other inbox is like your LinkedIn inbox. It's that thing you kind of know exists but never actually touch. So essentially, from my understanding of this, Josh Constantine, our own Josh Constantine, did a really good story about the new plan here. And according to my understanding of the overall situation, you can now request to message with someone on the Facebook platform without being their friend, which opens up your ability to communicate with more people if you want to and so forth. And there's protections built into this. But his contention was that Facebook wants to replace your phone number, essentially. And I didn't care about that, so I thought about it a little bit. And then I realized that it's a really good point. It's a really random way to have our communications linked up, just a random numeric
Well, because if someone has my phone number, they can constantly call me, right? And like same with you, like they can constantly try and get in touch. Whether that's by text message.
PR.
Yeah, we get harassed sometimes, and they're really confused why we're
But
mad
on
at them when
Facebook,
they're
you
calling
get-
us at 6 a.m.
On
and
Facebook, you get
we don't
one
know who they
shot,
are.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so you get one shot to request out, and then I can say no, and you won't know that I saw the request. So they can have some anonymity built in for protection. But I mean, do you guys use Facebook?
I mean, they can only do it one time, though.
Yes.
That's the whole point. It's just one time, contact you. through Messenger, and then if you don't respond,
Are you going to use this?
to contact people one time.
No. Will you accept invites to message?
I mean, if
don't?
it's, I mean,
Maybe.
maybe? Yeah, that's a good.
Depends on the message.
Exactly. I mean, it's like anything, right? Like we get bombardment of emails every day, and how do you decide which one to open up?
None. It's a simple
Well,
decision.
you
Like,
don't use your email. That's how you do that.
But I mean,
Yeah.
Facebook's the same way. I so rarely get a message on Facebook that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I got this. And it's not a product that I use in that way. And so for me, this new feature strikes me as almost
I like
redundant.
Twitter for that though too. People can like quickly tell me something. They tell me, "Hey, I'm interested in telling you about such and such a thing. If it looks cool, I might respond." Usually, I'm like, "That's not a thing. I'm not going to respond."
Yes, but I do like the idea of building out new products at Facebook that allow people to have
Sometimes.
more control. That's generally a good point for the firm itself.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone.